It's 1986 and inside one of the most famous casinos in Las Vegas. One man stands on the edge of an empire. He's a genius, a moneymaker, and a risk taker.
The top guy in the casino in that era always was directly tied into the mob somewhere.
But at 56, it's not his empire, and the millions aren't actually his either. Behind the scenes, he's pulling off the most dangerous scam in American history. It's worth hundreds of millions, has the potential to bring the mob to its knees, and cost him his life.
So he was the constant threat that kept the Skim honest.
And right now, he's moments away from making a choice that will decide his fate. Never before have America's biggest crime families come together for an operation of this scale, because the Chicago outfit, the Kansas City Mafia, the Milwaukee Mob, and the Cleveland Syndicate are all bleeding millions of dollars from one incredible Vegas scam. And at the heart of all of it is him. The FBI are watching. They always are. He knows it. The mob knows it. For years, the Bureau's been working alongside multiple gaming and law enforcement agencies chasing the biggest organised crime bust of all time. He's sure that they can prove the mob owns the casino, and he's sure that they can prove they're receiving vast amounts of casino money.
The commodity is green. Cash.
What they don't know is how the money vanishes, and without that, they have nothing. There's only one person that can join all the dots, him. So they can watch all they like. All around him, there's chaos. Sex, drugs, celebrities, violence. The casino sees it all.
I just had the sense that I was going to get whacked. You know, I know the way the game works.
But there are no cameras, and there is no proof. Unless, of course, someone makes a stupid mistake. And to find out why that might happen, we need to understand how he got here, teetering on the brink of disaster. We need to go back a decade to the moment that the mob first came calling.
It was almost as though, hey, they deserve it, because if it wasn't for them, we'd still be a barren desert.
It's early 1974, and this bookmaker is doing his thing, making his name in Vegas but keeping his head down all the same, because he caught the mob's attention years ago. He's already in their world, on their team, but he's not a big player, and he's fine with that. He just keeps plugging away. What he doesn't know, however, is that the mob now have a problem, and they think he, the numbers guy, could be the right man to solve it. The problem is one of money. In the good old days, the 1940s and 50s, the Midwest Mafia made their cash through labour racketeering, exploiting the unions to fill their pockets. But then the FBI stopped it. Then came their next cash cow, Vegas casinos. Now we all know the casinos make money, lots of it. But the mob families aren't interested in money which goes through the books. They want money that the authorities can't see. And they made it through the simplest of skims. Skimming means taking cash off the top of the daily receipts of business whilst officially reporting less to the IRS. Most of the business's income is properly accounted for, so as a casino declares a lot of profit, the IRS get a lot of tax. And at first, they're happy. But any cash skimmed off the top, let's say 10%, means 10% less revenue for the government. And the more money the business is making, the larger this amount will be, so the government are on high alert. They don't care if the casinos rip off gamblers, but they do care if they rip off them. And until recently, this skim was as simple as a friendly casino boss strolling into the day's cash count, grabbing a fistful of dollars and wandering off into the sunset. Job done. It was that easy. But now, under pressure from the IRS and the FBI, the Nevada Gaming Commission have introduced a new set of rules and extra paperwork. It also means casino owners are banned from counting rooms. The mob hate paperwork. As far as the authorities are concerned, their days of skimming are over, but the mob has other ideas. Lefty, their bookmaker, is about to get the biggest, scariest promotion of his life. However, what Lefty doesn't realise is that this new role will force him to work with men who follow their own rules, men whose loyalty has a limit. Now the jewel in the mob's Vegas crown is the legendary Stardust Casino, but the Stardust now faces closure because the FBI have worked out that the official owners, the Requiem Corporation, are merely a front. So before the bookmaker can get involved, they first need a new front, and they choose a guy called Alan Blick, the hotshot young boss from a rival casino, the Hacienda. The mob call him a genius, and he's at least smart enough to say yes. Soon, his company, Argent, with the name Argent coming from 3 initials from his name combined with the first 3 letters of the word Enterprises, because, you know, he's a genius, accepts millions of dollars in mysterious donations to purchase the Stardust, Fremont and Marina and hand control of them and the Hacienda to the mob.
Alan Blick
probably got into the casinos and got way over his head rather quickly. I don't think he really believed that he could be controlled by the mob the way he was.
And incredibly, it all goes unnoticed, at first at least. There had been reports that the millionaire recluse Howard Hughes made a deal to purchase the Stardust and add it to his casino collection, but while the government said that that couldn't happen because it would be a violation of monopoly laws, they're looking the other way. With Glick a mere puppet, the mob now install their guy as the real boss of the Stardust, that successful young bookmaker who goes by the name of Frank Lefty Rosenthal. Now Lefty is smart and they trust him to come up with a new way of siphoning off cash. So much so that from day one, he's on a salary of $250,000 a year. That's $50,000 more than the US President Richard Nixon. That's what his smarts and his silence is worth to the mob. Now, all he needs to do is deliver. But how? He won't mess with the mob, but messing up isn't too clever either. And the people who do have a habit of disappearing.
I developed a following as being someone that had some knowledge or success or was lucky, and when that happens, you become someone that people would like to see.
The Stardust, once the world's largest hotel, is still one of the biggest casinos in town, boasting 100,000 square feet of casino space, 73 tables and 1,950 slot machines. But it's best known for its iconic $500,000 Starburst sign, enormous swimming pool and lavish entertainment program. With the influence of the legendary Sands Resort starting to wane, with the right moves, the Stardust could rule the strip. So Lefty is dreaming even bigger. However, in Vegas, dreams have a habit of turning into nightmares, and Lefty's growing empire will soon attract attention from all of the wrong people.
Las Vegas, the city where anything can happen, and it usually does.
When it comes to making money for the mob, the devil is in the details. And the most important detail, the one that makes it all work, is fear. For that, Lefty needs a trusty lieutenant. So straight away, in comes his good friend, Anthony Tony the Ant Spilotro. Tony's loyalty is as sharp as his temper. And Lefty doesn't know it yet, but his trusted lieutenant is also a massive liability.
He sort of went at it as though he were running a dive in Chicago, with the blackjacks and the guns and all that sort of thing, and physical violence.
Now Tony comes with a reputation as a brutal soldier and enforcer for the Chicago outfit, and he doesn't mess around. His new job is to use any means necessary, intimidation, extortion and violence, to ensure the smooth running of Lefty's new scam and the safe distribution of all funds.
He was the enforcer, period. So he was the constant threat that kept the Skim honest.
With his team in place, things get off to a bad start. Nevada Gaming Commission rules state that any key casino employee must obtain a license, and on day 2 they advise Lefty that he will never get his, ever, because they know he's a mob associate with a conviction for bet fixing.
I had a problem with the Gaming Commission, Gaming Control Board from day one. The perception was that I was the two-headed monster, an associate or an affiliate of organized crime.
To get around this, he becomes the poker room coordinator. When they tell him that that won't do either, he becomes the entertainment director. It's all a giant sham. But to make things look legit, squeaky clean managers are employed to front each casino. Lefty, however, has a standard speech prepared to explain who's really in charge. When I say you don't have a choice, I'm just not talking of an administrative basis, I am talking about health. If you interfere with any of the casino's operations or try to undermine anything I want to do here, you will never leave this corporation alive. And on day 3, Lefty gets to work. Soon, the casinos are making serious money. His first move is to start bringing in big spenders, because where the big spenders go, the small punters always follow. And it works. But with so much money flowing in, how long will it be before someone asks the wrong questions, or looks in the wrong place? Next, he makes the Stardust the first casino to include a sportsbook, bringing in new revenue streams. Before long, the payphones in the lobby, for which runners call long-distance associates with the latest odds, are the highest grossing in the nation. To support his sportsbook further, Lefty launches a radio betting show, the Stardust Line, which is a hit across America.
And now we take you live to the Stardust Hotel on the glittering Las Vegas Strip and into the largest and most luxurious race and sportsbook in the state.
But Lefty knows he's really there for one reason only. If the casino is making money, that's great. But what the mob really wants is money the taxman doesn't know about. So all the while, he's been hunting down the right guy to show him a new way to siphon off cash, and before long, he finds him. Word has it that over at Fremont, there's a smart guy called Jay Vandermark who has some really creative ideas. Lefty gets him over, with Tony there to help explain why helping out would be sensible, and with his assistance, Lefty comes up with a brand new scheme. It's a brilliant plan, and by 1975, despite all the new rules and all the new paperwork, all designed to make sure the mob can never siphon off casino money again, around 10% of their vast daily take-ins are secretly disappearing. As far as the authorities are concerned, they never existed. Exactly how Lefty is doing it remains top secret, and it's vital that it stays that way. So as a special thank you, Jay is given an all-expense paid trip to Mazatlan in Mexico, but secrets in the mob world rarely stay buried, and when they surface, they often come with deadly consequences. Jay's head is bashed in while he's sunbathing on the beach, and all the loose ends are now tied up. But will everyone stay quiet? The FBI are hearing rumours. Those changes to gambling regulations should have stopped the mob from skimming cash at casinos, but if they still have a presence in Vegas, it's because they're making lots of money. A lot of money that they don't know about, and the word is they are making it through a new scam known as the Stardust Skim. But how does it work? The mob know that they'll always be under investigation. From the days of Al Capone, tax evasion has been one of the main ways for federal agencies to get them. But above all else, unless they can prove that money is being siphoned off by showing how, no charge against them will ever stick. To ensure it stays that way, however, inside the mob, silence is everything. Under the code of omerta, a Sicilian term rooted in the concept of honour amongst criminals, anyone who speaks to the police is marked for torture and death. But silence also means that key players involved in any business need to keep a nice low profile. And in Vegas, where you're everyone's best friend and always mixing in interesting circles, that isn't always easy. Lefty is only human. He does have a personal life, and although he's married to the model and Las Vegas showgirl Jerry McGee, and she's got problems, drugs, money and some bad ex-boyfriends, the relationship seems okay. Jerry's charm draws everyone in, even those who should know better. The one who looks likely to mess things up is Tony, the enforcer. Tony too has a personal life, or let's say personal interests. He enjoys the darker side of Sin City and doesn't like to be told what to do. He even runs his own illegal gambling racket on the side, which the bosses pretend not to know about. Tensions rise between him and Lefty when Lefty's shiny new sportsbook eats into his profits. The FBI, meanwhile, are waiting, watching, and ready to pounce. What bothers them most is that it now seems like all the main Midwest crime families have skin in the game, because the havoc these organisations can wreak on their own is nothing compared to what they might achieve if they work together. Now that is scary. What the FBI need is a break, and when it comes in late 1975, at first they don't even realise it.
We decided to use continuous pressure on these people, hoping that not only would they make a mistake that we could capitalize on, but also hoping someday that perhaps one of the participants would tire of the pressure and decide to cooperate with authorities.
A lawsuit is filed against the Teamster Pension Fund by the widow of a union member. She's seeking to recover her husband's pension benefits, which she claimed the fund had refused to pay out. It's a tiny dispute about one man with no mob connections. But what her attorneys uncover in the process is a paper trail of irregular payments from the fund to pay for the Stardust and other casinos. It proves that the mob are running the show. Uncovering the truth is just the beginning. Now, the FBI needs to prove it, and the mob won't go down without a fight. Fast forward to 1978. The FBI sensed that they could be on the verge of something big. Wiretaps are ordered on various made men, including Kansas City mobster Cole Tuffy DeLuna, and the conversations they record reveal how the money that's been bled from the mob's casinos is cleaned and distributed amongst the families. It's a laundering process that works like this. Once it's at the casinos, trusted couriers move dirty cash out of Vegas using hidden compartments inside vehicles or luggage. From there, the cash is delivered to legitimate mob-controlled businesses in Kansas City, from cocktail bars and steak restaurants to construction companies and real estate investments. Each business then generates fake invoices, receipts and financial records, making this dodgy cash look instantly legit, so everything is accounted for. As an extra insurance in a process called layering, the money is moved through several different businesses and bank accounts, while bribes are also paid to the police, politicians and regulators to ensure the scrutiny is kept to a minimum, before finally the clean money is delivered to the mob families in Chicago, Cleveland and Milwaukee, and then distributed through the hierarchy from the top bosses first, through their captains or capos, and then down to the soldiers. It's a typical but slick and ambitious exercise, and combined with the evidence that the mob families own the casinos might be enough to send some of them down. But the FBI want to make sure. They want more. And without uncovering the real secret, how the mob are actually siphoning off money inside the casinos, they still don't have it. However, in Tuffy's phone calls, there are enough references to key characters, albeit with classic mob nicknames like Leggy for the guy with long legs and Genius, who they know is Alan Glick, to convince them to step up their efforts still further.
Picked up conversations about Genius, Lefty, Teamsters, $22 million, $18 million.
They immediately launch Operation Strawman, with the Strawman being a person set up to serve as a cover for a questionable transaction. They know that Glick is the Strawman and suspect that Lefty is the key. You see, the FBI knows the mob keeps its secrets, but every crack in the foundation, every grudge, every betrayal, brings them closer to tearing it all down. Now, they need to find a way to prove it, and they can only do that by getting to the bottom of exactly how the so-called Stardust Skim actually works.
Within a week or 10 days, there was a public announcement by Alan Glick that he was selling the casinos.
1979, and thanks to their insider connections, the mob know they're under extra scrutiny. So the word is put out that everyone needs to play it extra smart.
Guy's name to say. Well, there ain't nothing to it. I mean, I know the guy's a rat, and I told him that. Okay. Well, if he shows up with him, it'll be a surprise. I'm telling you, he won't, because he knows how I feel about him.
Over in Vegas, though, that message is being ignored. In fact, things are rapidly descending into turmoil. Enforcer Tony has been indulging his taste for the Vegas high life, blow, broads, booze and gambling, and racking up the debts. To address this problem, he assembles a crew of known hardened criminals and forms the infamous Hole-in-the-Wall gang. The gang carry out over 450 burglaries and endless street robberies, bagging an alleged $4 million, money which does not make its way to his bosses. Open mob violence is generally on the up too, with Tony heavily involved. It's something the cops will not stand for. As a result, he's entered into the Nevada Gambling Commission's Black Book, meaning he is legally unable to enter into a single casino in the state. This makes it impossible for him to do his job, making sure that Lefty's scheme runs properly and no one talks. Even worse, Tony starts an affair with Lefty's wife Jerry, which Lefty feels to be a deep betrayal.
There was the situation, became a reality about the affair, which is a very difficult subject to talk about.
He himself starts to become increasingly obsessive. When it comes to what matters, keeping the operation running smoothly, he's always been on top of every detail. And now, this obsessiveness creeps into everything he does. He even insists that every blueberry muffin that the casino kitchens make contains at least 10 blueberries. But in the mob's world, every perfection comes at a cost, and Lefty's obsession will slowly alienate those he relies on most. He's starting to upset people, including the men upstairs. In what's seen as a further provocation, given their instruction to lie low, he decides to have fun with his bogus title of head of entertainment.
Tonight, live, the all-new Frank Rosenthal Show! From the Stardust Hotel in the heart of the Las Vegas Strip, it's the all-new Frank Rosenthal Show!
He hosts a TV chat show live from the Stardust with all the bright lights and pomp of a Vegas fight night. It includes a who's who of America's biggest stars as guests, including Frank Sinatra, O.J. Simpson, Liberace, Don Rickles, Bob Hope and Sammy Davis Jr. The mob bosses, all the way back to the most powerful of all in Chicago, are not impressed. The FBI are now crawling all over them. The only thing saving them though is that still no one knows how they're making ghost money in their Vegas casinos. Over in Kansas City though, the FBI have a breakthrough. Tuffy DeLuna has said too much. First on that wiretap, and then when his home is raided on February 14th, 1979. Bound by the Omerta Code, he keeps his mouth shut, but the truth starts to unveil itself in other ways. Paperwork shut down the mob's previous activities at the Stardust. Now, a different kind of paperwork threatens to bring down the system Lefty installed in its place, and of course the whole mob empire that it serves. Because another rule of the mob is that you never write anything down, but Tuffy is different. He's a professional. He always wants his firm to do better, so he keeps a private diary detailing everything using coded nicknames about the Stardust scam. Now, under normal circumstances, with a normal investigation, those nicknames would be enough to keep those secrets safe, but Operation Strawman is no normal investigation. It's big. So now they have a chance of cracking the whole case open. Over the next 5 years, the FBI collects over 4,000 hours of surveillance across 5 different states, and then they get to work cross-referencing the diary and its nicknames with their surveillance notes, detailing exactly who was where and when. It's painstaking work, but gradually, lead prosecutor David B. Helfrey pieces together an increasingly detailed picture of how the whole scheme works, with Lefty front and centre.
Here's a fellow who ties the union, the mob, and Las Vegas skimming in one person, and a person who can't really be effectively doubted. One, there's too much evidence. I mean, we got DeLuna's notes.
And then, in 1982, Lefty survives an attempt on his life. A car bomb blamed not on the mob bosses, who still trust him to do his job, for now, but on Tony. With Lefty and Tony no longer pulling in the same direction, and Tony no longer able to keep everyone quiet, Helfrey turns more and more mob associates into informants as he continues to try and put together the pieces of the puzzle. And then, on May 28, 1986, the FBI come knocking. They're ready to reveal one of history's biggest scams, the Stardust Skim, and explain one of organised crime's most lucrative cons.
Good evening. The government has made a major move against organized crime. A federal grand jury has charged 15 men with skimming profits from casinos in Las Vegas and distributing the money to organized crime interests.
So Lefty sits and waits. Is this it? Actually, not today. Today, it's the top men. Joe Orper, Carl Civelli, and Frank Bellaresi are arrested.
In Kansas City, 3 more arrested, including reputed organized crime leaders Carl the Cork Savella and Carl Tuffy DeLuna, Joey Iupa, Jackie Cerrone, and Joey the Clown Lombardo. They are charged with the hidden control and management of 4 Las Vegas casinos and the distribution of almost $2 million illegally skimmed from casino profits.
But as Lefty looks out over the Stardust, his world, he still wonders if he'll be the one to take the rap. At the trial though, it's clear that it's the mob bosses that the FBI are after. Omerta only went so far. The prosecution does a lot of deals, and lots of lower grade gang members walk away. Key witnesses include Alan Glick, who testifies that he'd been intimidated into fronting the operation, and the Cleveland mobster Angelo Big Joe Leonardo, who testifies that the Chicago, Kansas City, Milwaukee and Cleveland crime families each received from $40,000 and up to $100,000 per month from the Stardust Skim. Orper, Civelli and Ballesteri are first convicted of secretly controlling casinos. Thanks to that humble lawsuit filed by a Teamster pension widow, it's discovered that around $70 million of the funding which paid for the Stardust came from the Teamsters pension fund, which had been under mob control for decades. To overlook this irregularity, senior Teamster official William Presser had been getting $1,500 a month from the Stardust. And then, finally, federal prosecutors revealed that they have at least got the killer proof they always knew they needed, explaining exactly how the Stardust Skim works, and it goes like this. Previously, the mob's men would have skimmed the big money walking out of the door with the notes. This time, Lefty and the Stardust take the long way round. They skim coins, which had first entered the casinos via slot machines. The slots are a huge, continuing area of growth in the industry. In fact, there's so much money coming into the hard count room every night, where the nickels, dimes and quarters are counted, that the casino buys sensitive scales to weigh these coins en masse. $1,000 as 20,000 nickels or 4,000 quarters weighed accurately, just like that. Except Lefty hires a scale mechanic who would recalibrate these scales perfectly, so when 1,000 are placed in the hopper, it only registered as $900. Crucially though, this only happens at certain times, swing shifts in the quiet lull between day and night on named days at the start of the month. and only when the same 4 Stardust employees are working together. All, of course, are in on the scam, and all terrified of Tony. After the count, the legit 90% of the take-ins heads off to the bank by an armoured car, but the skim 10% is quickly laundered into notes by being recycled back into the casino floor as rolls of coins. And here's how that works. In other casinos, if a guest needs change, a change girl takes their $20 bill to the cashier and exchanges it for $20 rolls of coins. But at the Stardust, the girls go instead to one of the series of locked cabinets around the casino, deposit the bill inside and take the coin roll, compromising the skim coins. They then hand that to their guest, thus the skim coins are not being weighed by the scales, are quickly turned into foldable cash, with each of those change cabinets collecting up to $10,000 in bills per day. The crew also try something else, sneaking an extra token booth into the Stardust floor and simply never mentioning it, so 100% of the money paid into that for tokens goes straight to the mob. Later, an even more direct scheme is used too, so the mob can rinse a few more million out of the casinos. Bogus fill slips are generated and never delivered to the appropriate game, so the Gambling Commission gets the paperwork they desire, showing that certain tables are making losses to guests when, in fact, the money is simply going straight to the mob. Brilliant, and it's all overseen by a real genius, Lefty Rosenthal.
This is Kenneth Walker in Washington. Government officials call today's indictment their biggest case in recent years against high-level organized crime activities.
That's why this indictment today, with the people involved, is really a major step forward. People who have walked the streets almost with an arrogant attitude of we're above it, you can't get us, have now been what you might call brought to the heels of justice.
Joey Orper, Carl Savella and Frank Ballesteri are sentenced to a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. The Stardust Skim is the first successful case of its kind in Vegas, and a milestone in the fight against organised crime, proving that for the first time, the Chicago, Cleveland, Milwaukee and Kansas City crime families work together.
The indictment is the largest alleged example of the mob's attempt to penetrate Las Vegas casinos. And with more than $200 million in Teamsters pension funds invested in other Las Vegas casinos, officials say the investigation will continue to see just how deeply the mob and the Teamsters may be involved.
Although their indictment could only point to skimming worth $2 million. Real estimates suggest that the team skimmed 1 to 2% of all revenue and the bosses received $15 million each year. The case has a lasting legacy for the Midwest mobs. It takes out the top tier, and with them go their political connections and union control. The new bosses are mostly confined to selling drugs within city lines, and things are never the same again. However, Lefty Rosenthal and Tony Spilotro are identified as chief mechanics of the skim, and the Nevada gaming authorities now place Lefty in the black book too. He's never indicted. Rumour remains that he may have been an informant. His wife Jerry later dies of a suspicious overdose. You may have seen the Martin Scorsese film about their life, Casino. Tony Spilotro escapes conviction too. Perhaps people were afraid to snitch on him. But he doesn't escape the wrath of the mob, and in June 1986 he's found buried with his brother in an Illinois cornfield.
While it is no surprise that the brothers fell victim to a mob hit, what is surprising is the manner in which their bodies were disposed of.
After trial, the Gaming Commission insists that an approved company called the Boyd Group run the Stardust and Fremont. Only then did the true earning potential of the casino become clear. An FBI agent remarked, the amount of skim had been so heavy that the profit and loss statement did not present a true picture of the goldmine that the Stardust was. In the end though, all good things must come to an end, and in 2006, the Stardust's final guests are led out of the casino in a conga to the tune of When the Saints Go Marching In. 6 months later, nearly 50 years after its birth, the Stardust is blown up. Its role in Vegas and mob history will never be forgotten though, just like this guy in the next video. Check it out.